welcome to Cyber Therapy. My name is Ashley Lee, Senior Marketing Manager at JupiterOne. If this is your first time with us, welcome. I have my host here, Tyler Shields. You want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Good to see you again, Tyler Shields, CMO JupiterOne. I love the New Jersey look, Ash. Stand up, show us what that jersey looks like.
It's
Yes,
like
I got mine
legit
back here.
amazing. Ta-da! Even got my last
You gotta
name
love the
on
swag we
it.
do at J1. It's pretty epic swag, I gotta say.
Yes. Definitely, there's a sense of pride that comes with wearing like legit swag from a company you love and everybody works well. And it's just awesome.
Facts.
Really gets me pumped. So, yeah. How have you been doing with like the hurricane and all that jazz these days? It's been kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, you're safe in the middle of those flyover states, and then us coastal states, we get hammered with hurricanes and rain and lightning. No, the up here in central North Carolina wasn't too bad. I'm sure the coast got hit pretty hard, and obviously Florida and South Carolina got railed. But where we were, we had a little. I personally had a little bit of a power blip for just a minute or two. My brother, who lives 15 minutes up the road, was out for about 15 hours. I've heard people being out for maybe a day, but that's the worst I've heard. So not too bad for us. We had it relatively easy.
Well, glad that you're safe and healthy.
Yes.
So, yep. Literally the most weather we've gotten is we just got a bucket of rain yesterday, and that's been about it. So, my Xeriscape front lawn is doing fantastic, and it's set up to
So
take minimal water.
you're about a month away from snow anyways, aren't you, out there in Denver?
Yes, I'm actually rather excited. So hopefully it's a good snow season. My ankle is on on the mend, so we are getting geared up and ready to go. So,
All right. I'm not sure which did your
speaking
ankle. I
of
don't
skiing,
remember, but
actually,
that's
our guest is from a state that has also really good skiing, from Idaho. So I'd love to welcome Eric DeShetler from Solidigm. He's a network security architect. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Ashley. Hey, Tyler.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about on our prep call is we're both Bay Area natives who have left the Bay Area. So wanted to just kind of poke and see what made you leave the Bay Area.
You know, I love the Bay, but one of the main reasons I left is that my house in California was, well, the lot was 26 feet wide, right? And that's the entire lot. And so for the same price, I traded that way up north for 5 acres. And
Oh
that's,
man.
one big plus, right? But mainly because I just love the outdoors and, the seasons. And so I was really looking forward to getting back. I've lived here before, so I was looking forward to here.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm similar in that we left the Bay Area to go to Ohio because my husband was going to grad school there. So after he finished grad school, he gave me the option to take us to our next destination, and I basically chose Colorado or California,
Nice.
and let his jobs kind of figure that out. And we landed in Colorado, where we get snow, the white snow and white winter that I was hoping for when we were in Ohio. Because when we were in
Hmm.
Ohio, it was literally just ice storms. So,
Hmm.
yeah, all
Tyler,
three
you
of
were in
us.
the Silicon Valley too, right?
Yeah, all three of us turns out we're Bay Area people. I was never a native. I was there for 4 years, but I did my 4 years and got out of Dodge when the dot-com collapse occurred in 2000, 2001 timeframe. Bailed out and have been in North Carolina for 22 years.
Nice.
Wow, that's a long time. I can't imagine being in one place for that long, but who knows? Maybe this will be it for me.
I mean, we're in different houses, different towns, but we've been in North Carolina for 22 years.
Hmm.
Crazy town. All right, well, let's dig in. I think first question that I have for you, Eric, is how do you describe your job to people? Like, what do you do as a network security architect?
All right. So, how I describe it, it's just like any other architect, right? You build stuff, but it's a little bit different in cyber because what happens a lot with architects is like imagine if an architect built houses, if they saw a grassy field and they were like, hey, I think there should be a house there, right? And they built a house there, and then it's like, okay, who's going to own this house now, right? That kind of thing. That's what we tend to do in cyber. Like we'll start building right away as soon as we get on the job, and I really think that my job is to listen to the needs of my internal customers, figure out how I can help them do their job, right, and meet their needs, and build that for them, right? So that's how I would describe it in a nutshell. Yeah.
And let's see, you've had stints at NASA as well as NSA and worked at some pretty cool places. How have those roles helped prepare you for the one that you're in now? Because an
Definitely.
architect is not like an entry level job, right? If I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken.
Yeah,
So
say it's not an entry level job. You want to have some background, right? And I guess my background would be in systems integration. And but my experience at the NSA and at NASA really helped me get real world hands on experience, right? So I spent a lot of time hacking into systems, and then spent a lot of time, several years, defending systems that were being hacked, right? Like obviously at NASA, a big target. And so that real world experience, it was great because, as things happen now, as breaches happen, it's not too terrifying. It's all usually stuff I've kind of seen before. And so I will be definitely not be, running around screaming that the sky is falling when there's a breach, but it's just a good experience, I think, right? To be on both sides of the fence.
So
so
Eric,
as an art,
let
go
me
ahead.
ask you a question about that.
Go
Let me
for
ask
it.
you a
Yeah.
little bit about what's the difference between breaker and builder. And
Hmm.
you mentioned that you did a lot of breaking earlier in your career, and you're doing
Yeah.
building later in your
Hmm.
career, right? In this new phase of your career, what have you
Hmm.
learned from the breaker side that has helped you become better, stronger, more empathetic,
Hmm.
all of those things for the builder side of your career?
Yeah, so I started off breaking things, right? And you don't have to have any knowledge of how to secure systems when you're hacking into them, right? You might pick that up as you go, but you don't really, because you're essentially just trying to break all of the rules, right? You're running exploits and you're putting files where they don't belong, hoping that they don't get discovered, and you're doing things that are non-conventional, right? When you're defending networks, you really have to follow playbooks, right? Because everybody else has to be able to work with you as a team in order to keep that business alive, right? Especially during a breach, we all have to work as a team. And as a breaker, you can kind of go solo, and then you either have success or you don't, right? And if you're successful, you could pass it on to somebody else and be like, hey, I exploited this system. Go ahead, here are the keys to the kingdom. Go for it. You can't do that on
Do
the
you,
defense side. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think in your experience, it's a two prong question. Do you think one
Mm-hmm.
was more fun than the other for you personally? Well, just at a personal opinion level. And then do you
Mm-hmm.
think one was more difficult to master? And I know we never master our craft. We always learn. But,
Mm-hmm.
difficult to get good at, to feel like you were good at.
I think they were both equal, right? I think what really matters is like how high are the stakes, and I like the kind of high stakes roles, right? Where if you mess up, something bad is probably going to happen, right? And so, for me, it was high stakes at both sites. I felt when I was at NASA's Security Operations Center, I really felt like if I don't pay attention, if I'm not diligent, I'm going to miss something big, right? And the same way at the NSA, like if I mess up, then this might be on the news, and so they're both equally hard, right? Because it comes down to tradecraft. Like how good are you at your trade, right? Whatever it is, you can never master it fully, but definitely.
Always learning.
Hmm.
Which one did you
Curious.
enjoy?
Yeah.
Um,
Hang on. Which one did you enjoy more?
yeah, I definitely enjoyed the offensive stuff. I enjoyed it, but I think you will burn out from that faster. So I did it for 4 years, and it was like sometimes it was like I might not leave that building for like 3 or 4 days. Right, we're in the middle of something, and and you're just
Wow.
nonstop. Yeah, or at least like maybe 12, 16 hours. So it was fun, but yeah, I really enjoyed it definitely.
For what it's worth, I agree completely. I did the breakers thing for about
Hmm.
8 years, 8 or 9 years
Hmm.
of my career. So definitely get that. Now, I never truly acted as a technology builder in the traditional sense. I've acted since then as a business builder. But that's a
Hmm.
totally different muscle. But Ashley, go ahead. I'm interrupting you multiple times here.
No worries. I wanted to circle back to something you said at the beginning when you were describing your role as a network security architect. What does a typical, you said you want to listen to your internal customers. So the first
Hmm.
30, 60, 90 days when you're starting a new job, right? What does that typically look for? Or what questions are you trying to suss out in, like, basically, how do you get your lay of the land that you're
Yeah,
walking into?
definitely. So, as an architect, you're more focused on structural awareness as opposed to situational awareness, right? So, I'm not really too concerned over if there's a breach or what's being breached or that, or monitoring the logs specifically. I need to know how things are built, right? So, I spent my first 30 days getting an understanding of how things were built, right? And you start by asking people, of course, but you
Mhm.
really have to verify it yourself, right? You have to log into these systems to, cloud consoles, right? And go and check things out because you're going to find that it doesn't always line up to what people tell you. It's not that
Mhm.
they're trying to mislead you. It's just that they heard it from someone else, right? It's changed since then. There's a lot of different people working on these systems, and so they shift, right? So you have to verify it yourself. That was the first 30 days. You asked about 60 and 90 days, right?
Yeah.
Then what I'll do is, all right, so if you've been in, tech for a longer amount of time, let's say like, more than 10 years or 15 years, you start to see the same patterns, right? Really not much has changed in terms of like networking and the way systems are built over the last 20 years. There's been different layers of abstractions, but you start to see patterns and understand things. And then what you want to do is start to share that with other people. So like there's many other architects on my team and they have been focused on one domain. I'm focused on a particular domain like network security. And so I want to share what I know with them so that way they've got a bigger view of the environment. And that's 60 days. By the time you get to 90 days, you probably need to start fixing things or working on projects and stuff like that. You've got to deliver something, right? And
Mhm.
there's always you can always figure out what's the most important thing that needs to be done. What does the business need to drive their agenda forward, right? And for me being at a startup, because Solidigm is a startup, there are things that we have to do to basically establish ourselves as a business, right? And so any work I do around that is going to be not going to be pushed back on by anyone else. It's going to drive the business forward. So yeah, that's 30, 60, 90.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, you got a question? You look like you're about to go for it. Can you
Yes,
hear
and of
me?
course I
Oh.
struggle. I struggle with the mute
Oh.
button because I don't know how to hit M on my keyboard. Um, I'm going to interrupt real quickly and say I want to do a shout out to Valerie Apperson, who gave us a nice little comment here
Woo!
on YouTube. Thank you, Valerie, for the killer comment. We like to recognize the folks that make nice comments, and I guess we can even recognize those folks that make mean comments. But hey, Valerie, hey, shout out to you. So go ahead, Ash.
Um, so you said a little bit about structural awareness and situational awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and then now that's something that I've picked up from the cyber defense matrix. So I'm assuming that you are a fan
Mm-hmm.
of Sunil's cyber defense matrix. You want to dive a little bit further into how you're using that, operationalizing it in your organization today. This is more curiosity than anything.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely my favorite book that I've read so far this year. I've got two favorite books that I've read this year, and I love to do a lot of reading, right? So anything that someone recommends to me, pick it up and read it. And so you know, it's important to distinguish between structural awareness and situational awareness, right? Like it's really comes down to who, what, where, why, and when, right? And so
Mhm.
structural awareness is just knowing how the relationships between things, how they're built. So imagine like I'll take an example from the book, right? Um, a firefighter going into a building is going to need to know kind of like what the building is made out of, right? Is it
Mhm.
steel? Is it wood? Is it, how many floors are there, right? If he's going to go up the staircase, he better know how many floors he's going up to. You might be operating with lights out, that kind of thing. So you're gonna have to feel your way around. That's super important to know the structural awareness. Example might be, let's say I'm working on a firewall, right? And I make a change and I lock myself out. Now I can't manage that firewall. What's my other way into that that firewall, right? Maybe it's through the cloud. So I log into the cloud portal and log into it. Well, how is that all set up? Or is there like some kind of out of band communications, right? That's just one example, right? So when things break, if you know the structure, you can fix it. If you don't know the structure, then you're gonna, just like this wall behind me right here, it's probably been unfixed for like, 20 years. That's what you're gonna end up with, right? So
You
hopefully that,
intentionally brought that wall to this discussion
I
as a
did.
prop,
Yep. The
just to
sledgehammer's
make
over
that.
there. Yep. Exactly.
That's fantastic. I totally agree with you, by the way, right? Like structure and meat around what you have, and details and specific understanding of the universe around the incident, the attack, the vulnerability, or the issue provides
Hmm.
the context that allows you to execute your day-to-day work better, faster, stronger, smoother, right? And without
Absolutely.
that context, you're kind of operating in a bit of a almost like a black hole in some ways.
Hmm. And in security, there's so many people, especially if they're younger in their career, right? They really want to find breaches, right? They want to look at logs all day, and they want to find it, and they will. And I'm happy for them. For me, like I don't really want to do that as much anymore. If I know something happened, I'll go dig into logs and stuff, but or PCAPs, whatever. I love looking at PCAPs. That's true. I will do that all day. But for the most part, I want to like build, a good system, right? I want to build something that people like to use, that's robust, that is going to stand up to the internet, right? And it's for me, that's fun right now.
Yeah, and as Valerie says, like understanding things like blast radius, understanding
Hmm.
the context around the attack to understand the breadth of the risk
Hmm.
at hand, right? And I think the cyber defense matrix does a great job of helping compartmentalize the different chunks from discovery to, and I don't remember all of them. You might, because I think you studied it
Hmm.
closer than I have. But certainly the discovery to the enumeration to the remediation to the detection, right? The different chunks of the
Hmm.
matrix. Um, it kind of has. It's a great framework to help you to understand the life cycle of that kind of situation, right?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. The only thing I think it's missing, right, is a second book, right? A second volume, um, how to make friends and influence people with the cyber defense matrix, right? Because that's the
That's
only
a
thing I
great
found.
title.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. Is that and again, another quote from the book is that like all maps or all frameworks are misleading. Some are useful, right?
Hmm.
Reality is never the same as a matrix, right? But the rate matrix is very useful for talking about things, right? And getting people on the same page. But like my coworkers, they don't want to be boxed into a bubble, and they don't want me to force them to talk about one issue. A lot of times I'll notice that, right? So anyways, I'll have to figure that out unless you guys publish another book.
Shout out to Sunil. Hint, hint.
Exactly.
Nudge, nudge for the next book.
So actually, while we have a second, yeah, I think I'm lagging. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. I think we were lagging for a second there, but real quickly, I want to bring up an image of the author of the Cyber Defense Matrix. You mentioned, Eric. You mentioned specifically the Matrix, right?
Hmm.
You gave me a Matrix reference in there. So we'll
Nice.
just bring up this image real quickly if our system decides to work
There you
with
go.
any level. There it is. There is the author of
Yep.
the book. There he
Into
is directly.
yes.
And I want to make this a formal shout out to Sunil to write version 2 of that book as soon
Hmm.
as humanly possible.
Cyber defense matrix reloaded.
The how to
Yep.
influence people in the matrix. I like
That's good too. Yep.
it.
Yep.
Oh man.
There you go.
Okay. So speaking of influencing people, you said that there's you're listening for needs. How do you get to a place where you've clearly defined the need and the problem that you're trying to solve, because it's
Mhm.
so easy to get distracted by all the problems that are there. So
Mhm.
how do you go about sussing out the needs and drilling down to the specific problem that you want
Okay.
to solve?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that really has to happen in meetings, right? And the reason it has to happen in meetings is because there's going to be a lot of conflict in that process, right? And conflict has to live in meetings, right? You don't want to, if you notice, like if you text someone, if you deal with a conflict over SMS, it's a lot different than if you deal with a conflict over the phone, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, and so you want to know that you have the trust with your coworkers to have conflict, right? If there's no conflict in meetings, it means you either don't have the trust, so you guys can't really work together well, um, or like people don't feel empowered to bring it up or something like that. There's some other like base issue, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
get in a meeting, you find out what their needs are, and in their minds, they have some kind of concept of how things should work, right? And so that concept to light, and you give all the other stakeholders a chance to say, well, no, actually I think it should work a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you've done that, you're either uh, you're either going to come up with the right solution, or you're all going to be wrong together, and that's not that bad either. So
How do
that's my
you
approach.
prevent it from devolving into like let's just shit all over this problem but not like
Hmm.
have any stake in taking care of it? Cuz
Yeah.
it's very easy to do that, right?
Hmm. Okay, so
Hey,
I'm
Ashley,
gonna.
we're on a family show here. We're on a
I'm
family show.
sorry.
That's true.
We'll bleep it out
Okay,
in post. Tyler
you
Yeah,
Peterson
just
in the
bleep
yeah.
chat.
that
You
in
got
post. TP, make sure you bleep that in post, super producer.
Yeah. So you just reminded me like another book, right? And it's called Get Stuff Done, right? But it's not stuff, right? So anyways, you use the one cuss word, like in a Marvel film, they're like allowed to say the F word one time and that's it.
Yes.
And so it's PG-13, right? So you use that, so I can't use it now. But
Sorry.
basically, first of all, the only way you're gonna come up with something good is if somebody takes ownership of what's happening, right?
Mhm.
And so a couple things I'll do, right? If anyone ever complains about something not working or not being secure or not being the way it's supposed to be, I don't know if this is, I'm not sure if this is good advice, right? But I'm going to tell you. My response is always, hey, you're absolutely right. Let me know when you've got 4 hours. I'll schedule a working session, and you and I are going to go fix this like this week, right? And then like all of a sudden everyone's quiet. No one's complaining anymore, right? That kind of thing. So you got to find. My point is, you got to find who's going to actually take ownership of this issue, right? Or the project or the thing that you're trying to build. A lot of people just want to rent it, right? And so you
Mhm.
need to find someone who's going to own it, and be responsible for the outcomes, right? And those people are very motivated to have your help in designing a good solution and building it and all the other steps.
Awesome. Thank you for that. How do you
Mhm.
know when you've actually like distilled like is there a threshold in your head when you've known you've defined the problem clearly enough for people to actually then build a solution for it? Or is that just something like you learn from practice and from experience?
Um, you want to scope things down as small as you possibly can, right?
Mhm.
And what we call it like MVP, right? Minimum viable product. You want to scope down the problem, and really figure it out. I don't know if there's a way to know if you've done a good job on that. Like you've got to keep iterating back over it. You see what needs it's not meeting, and then you go and build it out more. But it's just like, okay, if you think about technology, how many times is technology purchased without really understanding if it's going to meet the needs that the people are purchasing it for, right? It's like if you even do some kind of rationalization, then at least you've done that, and you're going to solve a problem. And same thing with like finding needs. If you've even rationalized that a little bit, you're probably doing a pretty good job, because a lot of times people will just build without really understanding any need at all, and it becomes shelfware, right?
Mhm. Or like processes and fields of
Mm-hmm.
data that just go unused.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. So, as a
Totally.
marketing operator, I understand the let's build it because it's a great idea and like everybody's going to use it and then nobody uses it. It's like very disheartening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. But that's just because, sometimes you got to wait for the need to present itself before you go and build something
Mm-hmm.
for it. And then that way people will eventually adopt it,
Yep.
hopefully. So,
Absolutely. And also let them suffer for a little bit. I hate to say it, but first, like, how do you know what the need is until you see what they spend their time on, right? And it's like,
hmm
if they're like, hey, I'm spending 40 hours a week doing this manual work, I'm going into all these different dashboards and pulling these tags off of all these assets and then collating them. It's like, Okay, well, we can solve that problem, right? Once I know what you're trying to do.
That's actually a good segue into
Mhm.
how do you go about sussing out the gaps in your security program today?
Okay. So there's no shortage of gaps, right? That's one thing that you'll find at any company. And there's no shortage of controls either, right? There's thousands of controls that I have identified that could be put into place or beefed up more, that kind of thing, right? But there's major opportunity cost, right? We've got to focus on the important things that drive the business forward. So for me, it's aligning upwards with, like if you're in security, you want to align upwards with IT and with the greater business units. And first, like if you can find out what's going to help our business thrive, make sure you're moving those projects forward first, right? And so one example of that might be like, hey, you just had a acquisition, right? Your company acquired another company. Well, they're all on a separate laptop and they are following separate processes, and that's slowing everyone down, right? Because there's all this translation that's happening from the old business to the new business. Like, can you consolidate those systems and get them all working on the same laptop from the same company and using all the same systems, that kind of thing? If you do, you're going to remove complexity, right? And so that's a way of thinking of security is complexity is the enemy of security, right? And so if you remove complexity, even though you haven't built a single security solution, you actually are improving the risk posture of your company by
Mhm.
removing complexity, right? So that's focus on the business. That's what I'd say.
If we could dig a little bit more into that example
Hmm.
that you just stated, who are the players to actually roll that thing out? Because that sounds like a very big
Hmm.
undertaking for multiple parts of the organization. So curious to know the players and how you would go
Hmm.
about actually rolling out something like that.
So if you think back on your career, right, you can probably point out a lot of missed opportunities where you could have done something more significant, but you just didn't feel like you were empowered to do it, right? You're a full-time employee at a company, like you're part of that family. And if like you don't have to stay in your lane most of the time, right? You can propose, if you got an idea, you can propose a solution for that's going to solve any business problem. And you're not going to, you might meet some resistance, right? That's fine, but um, so anyone can solve it, right? And I think it's very important to get out of your lane as much as you can, slightly out of your lane, right? So like, for example, I'm in network security, that's my area of expertise, but I'm going to work on any security project and contribute to it, right? Because there's really not that much difference between like a network project and an identity project, right? The type of work you do is very similar. So yeah, don't wait for someone else to do it. Just bring it up, start it. If you bring up a problem, you kind of own it, right? That's usually what ends up
Mhm.
happening. It's like, hey, great idea, Ashley. When can you get started on that?
What are the steps that we need in order to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it's rolling out like a bunch of laptops to employees who are moving over during the acquisition. You already have like the whatever emotional state people already have feelings about the acquisition, right?
Hmm.
When there's transition. And then the additional like security policies, the change in the way of working, the culture, and all that. It just sounds like a very long, you're going to like lose people along the way. So,
Hmm.
how do you, and this
Yeah.
is, I mean, I feel like I'm interrogating you, so sorry, but like,
Hmm.
I'm really interested, like, how do you roll out a program like that to
Hmm.
really take people with you? Because this is like not just security rollout or anything like that. It's like involves IT. It involves you probably have HR involved because you got to get like addresses right from everybody for
Hmm.
who you need to roll them out to. So, and
Yeah.
then how do you just make sure everybody walks with you, right, to
I'll
adopt
tell
the
you what
policies
I
and systems
do,
here?
right?
Yeah.
Because I want to make progress every day on these things, right? I don't want things to drag on for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I have two colors that I use to color code all the meetings on my calendar. All right, it's red and green.
Mhm.
Green means this is a good meeting. We're gonna actually work and get stuff done, right? Or if we're just gonna talk about something, then we're gonna make a decision, right? And we're gonna do it in like 20 or 30 minutes, right? Red means that this meeting is kind of a waste of time, right? Like there's no agenda, so no attenda, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then what I'll do is, because what happens to calendars, like, you get double booked and triple booked, and it's very easy for me I'll just go to the green meetings, right? And I will ignore the red meetings. And so the way my approach then after that, right, is to schedule working sessions. So if we want to get something done, let's block out 3 hours and let's pilot. Let's do a test of that, right? Let's actually
Mhm.
build it and start it on a small scale, do a pilot project, prove that it works. It's like a proof of concept almost, right? And then we can say, okay, we can build this ourselves. It'll take us 3 months, or we can spend this money. We can hire on these contractors or this additional help. We can get it done in 30 days, right? And let the business
Mhm.
kind of decide at that point how they want to approach that or how important it is to them. But you're giving them options at that point. So
Mm.
projects seem very hard, right? But when it comes down to it, technology, like there's only so many buttons you can click and so many knobs you can turn, right? So you can do a pilot
Yes.
project of a project that would take like 30 days. You could pilot that in 4 hours if you
Mhm.
have all the right people who know how to make those changes, right? So I'll
L-
call the other
Mm.
engineers. We'll do it.
Little did I know we were going to get calendar management advice on this call today.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was trying to answer Ashley's question, and I feel like that might be the missing piece that you were looking for, Ashley. I don't know.
Hey, it's interesting. I've been in cyber for 20 plus 25 years, whatever it is now, and I would say the bulk of the more important things I've learned are not necessarily cyber centric, right? It's not
Oh yeah.
necessarily about the latest 0 day or triaging a flaw in a certain way. Many times it's as simple as saying, hey, I'm not doing these meetings. I'm only doing these meetings. And we're going to execute in a direction that makes sense for the security team to make progress every single day. And people don't think of
Hmm.
it that way. They always think of, hey, let me get the latest and greatest VALM or CVE or blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah,
many times it's kind of that double click distilled processes on how to just operate on a day to day basis that people can learn from.
I agree with that 100%. And I've never been at a company where everyone was like, "Hey, this company is great. There's hardly any meetings," right? I mean, that's just not how it works. Like, calendars can fill up. So you've got to choose not to go to those meetings, or like, what better way to do is message the person who invited you and say, like, "Hey, what are you expecting out of me in this meeting? How can I help? I can't tell from the agenda what you want here, so let me know how I can help you," right? And you might be able to turn that meeting into an email.
Mhm. Or you'll just get a download of it later, in an
Exactly.
async way and be able to contribute that way.
And many
Hmm.
times that's plenty. That's plenty good enough.
Mhm.
Yep. And you'll get out of the way. Like I talk a lot. You don't want me on your meeting if you actually want to get stuff done, and you don't want me to do it, right? Because I'll just take up all the air, and other people won't talk. So yeah. So then you just
At least
start
you're
not getting
self-aware.
invited. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. This is we are in October, so this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I know I didn't put this in the show notes, but it just popped in my head. What would be a tip or trick or piece of vendor software that you would recommend for the non-specialist, non-security specialist? So the regular, educated, everyday Joe Schmo who's not in
Mhm.
security, what would you recommend to them to implement and just be more secure?
Okay. Someone who's not in security. Okay. I recently got one of these. Wait, if I find it here on my keys, one of these YubiKeys, right? And I'm gonna hold it up there. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this thing is really cool, right? Because if you think about it, like you already use keys for everything. You've been doing that all your life. You might as well use a key to log into your Gmail account, right? And to log into your bank account and that kind of thing. And so I got one of these keys, and I have a backup key also in case I lose this one. And it's just like so much easier now. I don't have to worry about my email getting hacked or my bank account getting hacked because that additional factor is on the key. It's not sitting on my laptop necessarily. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not doesn't mean that you're 100% proof, secured by having that. But I think it's a good step in the right direction to get a key and yeah, use it. But make sure you have a backup
Yeah, and
because
that
you
what
will probably lose it.
yeah, and what does that focus on? That focus on the traditional weakest link, passwords. The second weakest
Hmm.
link, humans, right? If we can
Hmm.
solve the password and the human problem, we'd probably solve cybersecurity to a much higher degree of risk aversion, right? So
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of the token or at least biometric or finding some way to do a second factor above and beyond just that traditional garbage password that never
Hmm.
has worked for as long as I've been in cyber.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on um, using just like a Google Authenticator instead of an actual key?
It's better than just a password. All right. So
Right.
it
Oh,
is,
I'm saying
yeah.
like Duo or like, you know,
Hmm.
on your mobile phone, like that
Yeah,
would
it's good.
suffice, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would suffice, absolutely. The problem is don't lie, like when you see that pop up, you don't read it, you just click yes, that's me, right? And you get that push notification, right? Now, of course, if it just happened in the middle of the night, you probably wouldn't accept it, right? But if you're working and you go to log in, then um, when you get that push note, you're expecting it, so you're going to click yes, right? And that's human
Mm-hmm.
behavior, and that
Mm-hmm.
can be manipulated. And so, I'd say watch out for that, right? But it's still a good,
Yeah.
it's better than a password. Yeah.
I think it might just be because I work at a security company. I actually do
Hmm.
read every single
Okay,
time
good.
like that notification pops up. Is this you? Where are they
Yeah.
logging in from? If it's not where
Hmm.
I'm located, then no, it's not me.
Hmm.
Um, oh yes,
So,
Aditya, thank
so
you for
Eric,
asking.
did you get your key from the Yubico website, or did you get it from Amazon?
Yes, I
Asking
got
in
it
the
from the
chat.
Yubico website. Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
And
and
if you
that's
look
what I
at like
just
the cool
linked
thing
for
about
those
it
that
is
are
like
asking in that chat. Aditya,
it's
there
tiny.
you go.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that
Exactly.
the version 5?
Yeah, it's the latest one. It's got a USB-C port and a Lightning port on it, right, for your iPhone.
Yeah,
So
that's the
yeah, one
version
side plugs
5.
in your iPhone. Yeah, that's a good one to go with, I think.
Cool. Adding more folks
Hmm.
to the band of YubiKey owners. So
Definitely.
cool. All right. I think we're gonna be wrapping up our interview section shortly. There's a couple questions that I had left, and this is more for greasing, helping folks who are technical, right?
Hmm.
Be able to grease or build relationships so that everybody can work together as a team.
Hmm.
Um, what would be your one or two tips, your go-to like way of interacting with folks, how to win
Hmm.
friends and influence people, right?
Yeah.
To really build strong relationships so that when you're in crunch time, like you already have the social capital built up and you can go
Hmm.
to town and work on whatever you need to work.
Yeah. So no matter what, it's going to be somewhat difficult, right? And it's going to be somewhat uncomfortable to make progress and do important things, right? There's just no way around that. And so there's a lot of things though that we can do to make it easier. For example, I mentioned earlier about how conflict should be in meetings, so that's the
Yep.
first one, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
when that conflict happens, resist the urge to sidebar, right? And like, message, one person be like, oh, this guy's so dumb. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We already talked about this. Like don't sidebar. Say whatever you need to say it in the meeting. And if somebody sidebars you, tell them like, hey, don't sidebar me. Just say it out loud in the meeting, right? And that's very important. It will help build trust. And so yeah, building trust is really important. And one of the ways you do that is by not sidebarring conversations. And I think a lot of us do that very frequently. I did it until I realized that it wasn't helpful, and now I try to make it a point not to do it.
Yeah, I will say that it distracts me actually
Hmm.
from the core of the meeting. So I try, like when I'm in meetings. So, Tyler, when I don't answer you for a little while, it's usually because I'm in a meeting talking to people and not paying attention to you. Just letting you
Yeah.
know.
All this time, I thought you just didn't like me, Ash. And
Hmm.
when I'm sending you back channel messages during our live feeds like this, and you ignore them, now I know you just don't like me. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, turn your camera on too. That's a good one, right? But I feel like everybody knows that. But it's just funny now. Like you go to a meeting with 30 people, nobody has their camera on. One person turns it on, and then all of a sudden, everyone else starts turning it on. Like, you know, it's just
I
human
feel
It's
nature,
like
I
neat.
guess.
that's what's interesting is that's very dependent on the type of culture. I've noticed
Hmm.
that I feel like the more toxic the culture is in terms of like people don't trust each other, there's a lot of like back channeling and like side
Hmm.
conversations during meetings. Those are the ones where there's typically, okay,
Yeah.
here we go. He's probably messaging you right now. His thoughts on
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
I had
But
to do
like
it. You
Yeah.
made it too
the
easy.
I
Yeah.
know, but like it's just it's interesting because I mean, my best friend, she's not in cybersecurity at all, but she is on a lot of meetings because she's a scientist. She's a data analyst for
Hmm.
biotech company, and they never have their cameras on. But then I
Hmm.
also hear all her stories of like the conflict and everything like that. I'm just like, oh, how are you
So,
surviving there? So,
do you know what the definition of a data scientist is?
I
No.
mean,
It's
I
a,
feel like this is a
it's
trick
it's just
question.
someone who knows more statistics than your average computer scientist, and someone who knows more computer science than your average statistician, however you say that word. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
So is
Um,
there? So here's an interesting question for you, Ashley, and you,
huh.
Eric, as well. And it was
Okay,
brought up by
Ashley first.
Valerie Epperson on the feed. Um, she brought up a good point. She said in the UK they think it's polite to camera off mute when you present or perform. Do you think there's a cultural difference? And it's difficult for people like you and me, Ash, because 90% of the time we're on US based calls with US based people. And
Mhm.
I think have a little bit broader insight into this in the sense that I do a lot of work with Israeli companies as well. But I haven't noticed any difference in Israel. Have you guys seen anything international? Do you have any insights into international cultural differences when it comes to camera on versus camera off, mute versus non-mute?
I mean, I think for me, my standard really is I go into meeting, I make all my Zoom meetings like by default, everybody enters camera off, mute off. So that way
Mm-hmm.
they're opting in to have their camera on and to be able to speak. It's a voluntary choice, right? I'm not
Which is
making
funny because I do the
people
opposite.
show up. Yeah, I noticed.
Honest to God,
And
I do the opposite because I force people to have that openness that comes with being camera on and being engaged and not being
mhm.
disconnected. And at least if you're going to ignore me, I'm going to see you ignoring me.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I've got a different opinion, right? Because let's say you're in a conference room, right, with like 20 people, okay? And five of those people are just staring at you the whole time. Like you're not even talking, but they're just nonstop staring at you, right? I'm gonna be like, Tyler, why are you staring at me, man? I'm not even talking. Like, what, do I have something on my face? And it's like you don't know who's looking at you in a virtual meeting, right? But if you were in that same conference room and you were standing up and you were talking, then it would be completely normal for everyone to be staring at you because you're up and you're talking, right? So
Mhm.
if you are camera shy, turn it on when you're talking and then turn it off when you're done, right? It's a little weird,
Mhm.
okay, to
Mhm.
turn your camera on and off, but at least you have it on when you're talking. And I like doing that because, like, I've got like kids and dogs coming up in camera and stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
it's a little too
Sure.
distracting
Like
me.
if you're getting
Yeah.
interrupted by kids and dogs and stuff, absolutely. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
mute it, video off for a minute. Like if I need to stand up to get another glass of bourbon, I'm gonna turn the
Hmm.
video off and go get my glass of
Yeah.
bourbon, right? But
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that it could be a bit of a cultural thing, and I would love if there's any international audience that watches this
Hmm.
on our YouTube feeds, our Twitter feeds, our Twitch feeds, our LinkedIn feeds, our whatever feeds. Um, Comment down below if it's a cultural thing or if this is just straight up, hey, everybody turns it on or everybody turns it off kind of scenario. It's not something
Hmm.
we generally dive into on this show, but when you're
Mhm.
talking about how to spread the word of cyber and to get people involved, there's a certain level of cultural impact and empathy for others that you have to be able to embrace to be able to get that word out, even within your team, within your organization, especially if you have a multicultural, multi-international organization. So I definitely think it's an interesting topic that we haven't really approached before. Ashley, we're at 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think
That
it's
went by
game
All right.
super
time.
fast. They always do
Let's
when
do
we
it.
have great guests like Eric, right? They go by
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
super
you.
fast.
It's been fun.
Awesome. All right. Today we are going to do trivia.
Be
Also
careful,
note
Eric. I'm going to give you
TP.
fair warning. I am competitive AF. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he will steal all
Well,
your points.
Yeah.
And he will steal all your
well,
points.
I don't like to lose.
definitely. But the question is, how much trivia do you remember, right? So,
It's a
So what are
good
you
and did
saying?
question.
I'm
Ashley give
old
you
and I
the
have a
answers
shitty
ahead of time?
memory? Are you saying I'm old and have a shitty memory? That's a good
No, I'm saying,
possibility that you might be right in this scenario. But we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see how old and bad my memory really is. Although I do have to admit, Ashley sets these games up,
Hmm.
Yes.
and in
Yeah.
general, her goal is to make me lose.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right.
So
I
you're
always
Good.
like
the
it when
guest
our
is
guests
always at an
end on a
advantage.
high note. So
Uh-huh. All right, let's try it.
cool. All right. So this trivia, it's like a mix of astronomy, something about money,
Hmm.
something about like countries, random stuff. So
Wow.
the
Straight
way
up
this will
Jeopardy
go
style.
is, Eric, I will ask you the question first. If you get
All
the answer
right.
right, you get the point. And then we move on to the next question, and the next question goes to Tyler. If you get it wrong, Tyler gets a chance to steal. Wow.
Okay.
You got your
I'm in competitive
gonna
mode. Be
Yep.
ready.
I
poker
hope you
face
have
on?
Matrix questions on here since that was,
Rally cap. Let's go.
there
Hilarious.
you go.
Okay. What is the coldest planet in our solar system?
Neptune.
Wow, good job.
Damn you,
Thanks.
Okay.
Scuba
I
Steve.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
So
blue.
I
that's
totally
why.
knew
So
that, but I didn't say
yeah,
anything because I thought he got to go first.
wait
Is
till
it first
yeah.
to answer?
No. I
Well,
gave the question to him first.
Okay, I
yeah.
didn't
And
If
hear
then
I
you.
the
got it
next
wrong,
question
it
goes
would
to you.
go to you. Yeah, but the next one
Yes.
goes to you. Yep.
I would have gotten that right.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
believe you.
How many, Tyler, this one's for you. How many constellations are there?
Seriously, come on. I get Neptune and I got to count constellations?
You would have said Mercury.
12, actually. There are 12.
Wrong. Eric, you want to steal?
Yeah, 14.
No, there's a lot more than that. There's 88
No,
constellations.
I honestly had no idea.
Seriously? That's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
shot in the dark.
I
Hmm.
think,
That's all right.
well, okay,
Like, who
I'll be
defines that? I
fair.
make up my own constellations all the time. So
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
so
That
there's
looks
an
like an
infinite
emoji
number
of
then.
a that looks like a poo emoji. We'll call that the
Yeah.
poo constellation.
Next thing you're going to tell
All
me
right.
Pluto's not a planet. I don't believe it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shenanigans. All right, Ash, hit it.
All right, Eric. What is the smallest city in the world?
Ooh, smallest city in the world. It must be an island, and I have no idea. I'm going to pass.
I just love that you actually verbally thought that out to help me.
That's
I
okay.
still don't have an answer, but thank you for the tip.
Yeah.
Um, let's say some French Polynesian island that ends in a vowel.
Hmm.
No.
This is a hard game. Go ahead.
Well,
What
because
is it,
The
Ashley?
it's
answer.
impossible.
The
Yeah.
answer is Vatican City, Rome.
Oh, derp! I
See, I
knew
was
that.
thinking that. Yeah, that popped in my head. Tyler's
Didn't.
typing. I can see it on his glasses. He's Googling these
Yeah.
answers.
No Googling you
Just
cheater.
kidding.
Well, he wouldn't find it in
Which
time anyways.
is funny
Mhm.
because it didn't occur to me about the Vatican City thing, but I totally
Yeah.
should have known that.
Yeah.
Well, now
Yeah.
you know.
It wasn't an
All right.
island. So, okay.
Correct. It's not the island. An island. Tyler, this one's for you. The unicorn is the national animal of which country?
Of which what? You broke up.
Country. What
Of
country?
which country?
Yeah.
For real? Like some country out there
For real.
actually believes that a unicorn exists and they're going to make it a national animal?
Wait, they don't
Wow.
exist? Wow.
I think it's got to be Ireland because they believe in leprechauns too.
Incorrect. Eric, you want to try and steal?
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Uruguay.
No. The answer is
Good answer.
Scotland. Tyler, you were close.
Ah,
I was super
you're
close.
so close.
Which
Yeah.
which makes sense because the Irish have the leprechaun, the Scottish got to have the unicorn. Like that makes sense.
Yep.
Right next to each.
Yep, definitely.
Hilarious. Okay, right now the score is 1-0, Eric.
All right.
So,
Neptune.
and we've gone through 4 questions.
Yep. Yeah, that's not fair
Okay.
because he would have got that one. So I have to win legitimately. It's got to be
No.
a hard
This
question.
is competitive mode. You take your point. I'm still
All right.
coming for you.
Mhm.
All right, Eric, this question is for you.
All right.
What day of the week are ATMs most frequently visited?
Oh, I know that one. It's a day that ends
Yeah.
in Y.
Ah, good one.
What? It's a day that ends in
Yeah.
day.
I'm going to say Friday.
Ding, ding, ding. Correct.
Yep.
You are
All right.
correct.
Cool. Makes sense to
Very
me.
nice. Yes, it makes sense to me
Yep.
too. All right, Tyler. What is the
Something hard.
average lifespan of a US $1 bill?
Yes.
See how she sets
That's
this
awesome.
game up, Eric? See how she sets these games up?
That's exactly what the losing party would say. Go for it.
It's rigged.
Okay. I need you all to look another way for a minute.
Or just take off your glasses.
Let's say 82 years.
Incorrect. You're way off, man.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
Oh, actually, Eric, would you like to steal?
Yeah, it's obviously 10 years.
No, actually,
Oh.
it's
I
only
like your
18
confidence,
months.
though.
18 months?
Yeah, 18 months.
What are people doing with these dollar bills to make them die so fast? I don't want to know.
I was just going to say, do you really want to ask that question?
Yeah, don't ask those questions. Some questions should not be asked, Eric.
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty. Eric,
Yes.
question for you. What is the hashtag symbol technically called?
Okay. So the hashtag symbol was originally, before it was a hashtag, it was called pound. But that's what I'm going to go with, pound.
Right.
Yep.
He's right.
That is incorrect. I mean, that is another name, but that's not
Yeah,
what
there's another
it's
name for it that
technically called.
predates that. Go for it, Tyler. You got this.
You're
This
kidding.
is all you.
I was totally
There's
guessing pound. I don't know. Tic-tac-toe
You got
board. I
another
have no
guess?
idea what else you would call it.
Tic-tac-toe board. All right, give up.
Mm-hmm.
The answer
Yeah,
is
I got no guess.
Octothorpe.
Oh, I never would have got that. Never would have got that in a million years.
Octo
Okay.
what?
Totally. Octothorpe.
Octothorpe. Come on.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I was expecting you to say something, and then I would be like, "Oh yeah, I remember hearing that a long time ago." But no, not that.
No,
yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Tyler, this question is for you. Name the first soft drink enjoyed in space.
I imagine it's got to be one of the big brands who paid enough to sponsor something to get it drank. It's got to be Coca-Cola.
Correct. You are correct.
Yeah.
You've got a point. You're on the board, Tyler.
There you go.
So
rack them up.
I mean, that's a very easy question, but I'm glad you got it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Neptune. I'll just call you Neptune from now on, Eric.
All right.
Alrighty.
All right.
The score is 2-1. Eric
right.
is winning 2-1.
Oh, cool. All right, cool. Good.
Thank you, Val. I hope you're okay with me calling you Valerie. Thank you for participating.
She said RC Cola. There's like maybe 10 people on the planet that remember RC Cola. Sorry, Valerie. And I'm one of them, so.
Alrighty. This is odd. So this is for Eric. Name the only 2 countries in the world where you cannot buy Coca-Cola.
Wow. Hard question. Okay. I'm going to say Russia and Brazil.
Incorrect. Tyler, you want to give it a shot?
Tyler, you got this?
No, I don't have it. I just knew you were wrong. Zimbabwe and Vatican City.
Incorrect. The 2 countries are North Korea and Cuba.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Totally. Okay. We should have got that.
Should have known that one.
Alrighty, Tyler, this one's for you. You are behind by 1 point.
Not for long.
So if you get this one, you'll tie, and then we can go to the bonus round. What does ZIP stand for? Like zip code. ZIP. As he Googles it.
My Google food's not even good enough. Nope. I tried to cheat and I can't even cheat. I got nothing.
Eric, you want to guess?
Zone industrial planning.
You're close. You're
I should
close.
get half
It's
a point
actually
for that.
zone improvement plan.
I was so close, so close.
Oh
Did I
my
get that?
gosh, you were
I
so
would give that to
close.
Tyler if you said that. No, I don't get it. It's a fair. I
I
lost
won't
it.
give it
Right.
to you, but that
No.
was
All right.
very freaking
It was
close.
close, right? All right, good. All right, cool. Zone improvement
Alrighty.
planning. Got it. Yep.
That makes Eric the
you wanna
winner, right?
No, I didn't
Yes.
get
No. You're up 2 to
2-1.
1.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that
Oh,
pretty
that was
much
okay. Great.
that was the last question.
That was
Yeah,
the
2
last question,
questions.
she
Very
said. I
cool.
All
needed that to go
right.
into
Yeah.
overtime. See how she
Cool.
sets this up? She gives me all the super hard questions, and then she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, he's down 1. Let's give him a wicked hard question so that he can't make it into overtime."
Yeah. Well,
And then I wonder why I
and
I
lose
then
every
tried to
week.
give you a hint before. The question didn't even say zip code. I
Yep.
tried to give you a hint there, zip code.
Well, it
Mhm.
doesn't really
It's
matter because
saying
at the end of the day, Eric actually was close enough to get a half a point there anyways. He freaking killed it.
Thank you. Yep.
Awesome. Well, that pretty much wraps.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time, your expertise, and just a overall really enjoyable conversation. So
I had a
Yeah,
blast as well. Thanks
absolutely.
for all the great trivia questions, Tyler. Thanks for letting me win. And yeah, it was great. Great time.
I didn't let
awesome.
you win,
With
but
that,
Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really enjoyed having you. At the end of every show, I just take great pleasure in kicking the person who beat me in trivia off the show. So, Tyler, get him off my
No,
show.
no, wait.
Get him. All right.
that was so
Ashley,
perfect.
he's good. He's good. He's
Yeah,
good.
that was awesome. Okay. Everybody, thank you. Valerie, thank you for joining us today. Aditya, thank you for joining us today. Really, really appreciate all of you engaging with us on the chat. Our next episode will be in 2 weeks, so that will be October 18th. And you will see both of us there. And our guest is TBD. So you will
Keep an eye on our socials.
watch
We'll
us.
announce the guest as soon as we know it. Please smash likes. Please smash follows. Please smash all the smash 'em things that you can smash. Smash them because we need it. We need the followers. We need to feel like you love us, like Valerie Apperson loves us. So please click all the buttons and do all the things. And Ashley, thank you for another wonderful episode of Cyber Therapy.
Thank you for co hosting with me. Appreciate you.
Take us out, Tyler.